Hello and welcome to the Foxfire Farmhouse. We're glad you made it in here once again today for another episode. We're switching things up a little bit. We're going to do a movie review this week instead of our typical, what would you call our typical scheduled programming, I guess? I don't know what we call
exactly
that.
what you call it.
The show? The show. Instead of the typical show, we're going to bring you the every other week typical show.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to be talking about a movie. We're going to talk about the Lego movie.
Mm-hmm.
We are
It's a good movie.
dads. And which also means that at some time in our life we played with Legos.
Oh, yeah.
It also means that we have kids and we watch animated movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it also means that we like those. So anyway, we thought we would talk about the Lego movie a little bit. So what is the Lego movie?
What is the Lego movie? Well, the Lego movie is a movie about Legos, as you might expect it would be.
Wow.
Yes. It's
Shocker. Way to spoil it for everybody.
Yeah, it kind of takes that idea that I think everybody who's had Legos and has had a camera has tried to make some form of stop motion, or at least had a friend that made stop motion films.
Yep.
And it does a Lego stop motion film with a big star-studded cast. It's a very comedic story, a very comedically epic story, saving the entire world from destruction. One little construction worker with an ordinary face and typical clothing has to save everyone, and he is the chosen one. And so you get all the antics of that.
Yeah.
Him meeting a ragtag group of wizard, a graffiti artist, Batman, Superman, Gandalf, Dumbledore, the 2003 Lakers. So it's to the wall. It's official Lego, so they have the license to all the Lego sets that they've ever made, basically. And they really just push it to the max, and they created a movie that's enjoyable for both adults and children.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
So the basic storyline is what Elijah just said. A kid gets chosen to be the special one who's going to save the world from Lord Business, who is
President Business,
who is attempting to rule the world on Taco Tuesday. And
except on a Thursday or a Friday.
And he's going to destroy the world with a Craggle.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to stop him with a piece of resistance, which Emmett, the main character, has glued to his back out of nowhere.
Which is a symbol of a burden that he carries on his back.
It's basically Pilgrim's Progress, but with Legos.
I mean, really?
the burden,
depths.
The burden falls off him, and then he
Yes.
falls into the grave.
Yeah.
And then he comes back.
Yeah, resurrection. Resurrection. He falls into a pit of Legos, comes out, baptism. Anyway, there's prophecy.
We joke. But nonetheless, it does. When any story begins to follow the classic story structure,
Yeah.
it ends up resembling the gospel. So
Yeah.
we're not saying it's not there.
No.
It's just not an intended.
No.
Yeah, don't.
It's not the focus.
No.
The focus is, yeah.
And so something to mention from the outset is that when you watch this movie, like I did the first time, I didn't particularly love it. So I watched it, I don't know, shortly after it came out on like a home release back in the day.
For Lego Movie?
Yeah, like on DVD or Blu-ray.
It was, when you watched it?
Yeah. So I wouldn't have watched it right when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters.
Opening day.
Did you really?
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of gaggle of teenagers.
Awesome.
It was pretty great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
2014, man.
That would have been a
great
better way to experience it.
Yeah.
Than, the way I did.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, so I at first thought, what is this movie even about? This is just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it got
kids'
done,
toys.
then when it got done, I was like, oh, this isn't just like a bunch of dumb humor. This actually has something bigger behind it. And then I watched it again, and then I liked it more, and it made me go back and watch it again, and then I still like it more. And now I think it's a wonderful film. So
Yeah, it's richly layered. Like I think this is just one of those films that, like, if you keep your plot, like, a complex plot is always really fun to watch. But if you keep your plot really simple and you do it, like, well, like the depth that you can add to a simple plot is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of like layering, especially for comedy, like
Yep.
an action comedy that this is mainly just comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had a lot of layers of like accessibility. Like my toddler can watch this and enjoy it and watch
Yeah.
it through, and so can any age of kid. I've been around every age of kid that has watched this, and they all enjoy it equally as much as, well, maybe not as much as I do because I can get more jokes, but
Yeah. Right.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of like back when like Disney, when he was creating like Disneyland and his cartoons, he was creating a form of family entertainment, and that it was something that was childish but didn't make the adults feel embarrassed to be enjoying it and to watching it. So
Yeah.
it allows for me to watch it with my kids, and it's not like watching Cocomelon or Slippy or something.
Yeah, it's very I don't know, because it's still just a classic story.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable by anyone because everyone loves stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I think that a couple of things make it really interesting. Number one, the production. So if you're in the filmmaking world, or you maybe just in the Lego world, at some point you might have seen, like Elijah was talking about, the stop motion fan films that people make.
Oh yeah.
And you can go online, and we even, I think, referenced in the episode on Jesus in the movies.
Yep.
Someone made a Jesus movie, which
There's
is
the Brick
technically
Bible out there.
not a stop motion film because there's no stop motion. It's all
Yeah.
just kind of diorama type stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
I digress.
I read only the Brick Bible because it's translated directly from the Greek.
Straight from Greek into Lego.
Greek to Lego.
It's the only translation
It's,
like it.
Yeah, it's the only auzed version.
Yeah, the only authorized brick version.
Yeah. I realize that there's no camera, and I keep looking to a camera.
Yeah, we aren't on video today, so we are free to be here looking at our phones and
I'm just
drinking
gonna
our coffee.
turn around and not look at you.
Yeah, there we go. That would make the show so much better. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
But there are these stop motion films, and then there are, of course, animated films. And when you when you play the Lego games, often the animation isn't limited directly to what bricks can do, right? Like they're all bendy, and there's not the
Even the
physical brick
backgrounds
style.
have become like just 3D.
Yeah,
models.
right. Yep. And what the Lego movie creators though did was that they limited themselves to stop motion, not to stop motion. They limited themselves to the physical motion of the bricks, and then used stop motion techniques with 3D to make it come alive. And so it actually looks like real Lego bricks being made as a stop motion, like just a super advanced stop motion brick film. And so it's visually very fun.
One of my favorite parts is watching the water when they get like blown out of Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Yes.
And it's just the water, and you're like, whoa, like just seeing like the waves and everything move in that
All
stop
just
motion.
bricks.
Yeah. It's so cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. Yeah, it's great. The end credit scene where they walk through all the different brick,
Different like realms or whatever.
Yeah, it just really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So there's so much about it that is visually fun. And then the story comes down to what happens is that Emmett, he goes to save the day. He's been prophesied that he's the one who's going to come. Then is it not Vesuvius?
Vitruvius.
Vitruvius. Yes, he has this prophecy that he says, the special is going to come.
All of this is true because it rhymes.
it's a great by Morgan Freeman, which is just splendid. So he ends up discovering that, of course, Vitruvius made the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And that he's not the special, and that all of this doesn't matter. And he's at first thought he was not a master builder. Then he realizes that he is. And the master builders are people who can just make anything out of anything. Whereas Emmett has to follow all the instructions. And he comes to be a master builder and then ends up having to give his life. What is it? He takes the battery of the world of the self-destruct device for the tower with him, I think, or something like that. The cord, he cuts the cord.
So the 9-volt breaks off with
9-volt. That's right. He takes so the battery goes off and it's not able to destroy the
all
tower.
His friends,
and all his friends in the prison. But then he falls into the real world, which is a basement of Will Ferrell, the Will Ferrell's
and his
basement.
son, yeah.
And Will Ferrell's son Will Ferrell's character's son is down there in the basement and is playing with his dad's Lego set, which his dad has this massive Lego city that is all meticulously put together. But his son, of course, is playing like kids play with Legos, building all his own cool stuff that has nothing to do with instructions, just remeshing and kit bashing all the stuff together.
Yeah.
And his dad comes down there.
This is a hodgepodge. That's what this is.
Yeah. His dad comes down there and sees what his son has been doing with his really elaborate Lego sets, and he gets all upset. And he's now sends his son upstairs, and he's got to put it all back together.
Yeah.
And that's when he breaks out the Craggle, the super glue.
Yep.
That
Crazy glue.
he's going to use to glue all the pieces together so that they can never be taken apart and never be remade. And in the end, there's this conversation between father and son, between President Business and Emmett, the ordinary man, about how, basically this is being creative and you're the bad guy. You're the one who's trying to stop the world because you want it all to be perfectly like according to your plans and not according to anyone else's. And so anyway, it's just a really, really interesting story. I don't know what do you think about the overall story message, I guess, the overall theme of the story?
I really like was appreciating it, even just from the aspect of like being like a Christian in the world, and just kind of how everything's kind of very how that world has its own rules and how everything works, and yet he doesn't necessarily fit in with all of like the world that he's in. He follows all the rules. He does what's expected of him, but he just doesn't necessarily fit in. And then he meets this crazy gaggle of adventurers who are part of this resistance to make the world right. And so I just appreciated that arc in terms of like looking at it this last time I watched it today. I was like, oh, that's really cool that like, and he's kind of spurned for being the rule follower, like, and doing everything right.
Yeah.
And then he meets up, just with a fun cast
he's
of
just
characters. And
it
kind of just reminded me of just how that's kind of how we are in a way, like Christians, like we're a different group, and we're seeking to fix what's going on here on this earth, and we're seeking to be a part of the redemption that the Lord is bringing. And so I just thought that was really cool. So
I think that's one of the greatest strengths of the film is the character development of Emmett, and how he goes from, because it really hits that cross section that everyone falls into. Right? Like, so it gets serious empathy points from we all identify with this hero. Right. So you've got the hero.
He's so vanilla that anyone can identify with him.
Absolutely. He's trying to fit in with society and do what society does, but he feels lonely.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay.
He buys the overpriced coffee. He listens to all the same songs that everybody listens to. He's always willing to go out, but
and then no one wants to hang out with him. He feels totally alone. He has coffee in the morning with his plant. That's like his social life. And then he finds this ragtag group of people who are all super cool and who are all bucking the rules and are all these master builders.
Yeah.
But he doesn't fit in with them either. And so he's got to learn, where do I fit in the world? And it's somewhere between following the rules and being the master builder. And he ends up saving the world, right? So we all hope that like the reason we don't fit in is because we're the savior of the universe.
Exactly.
So this is like totally causing us to buy into it, right? But it's a good character arc. It's classic character arc. And in reality, we all do need to find where we fit in the world. So it's not,
we can just be
it's not
effective.
Bad. Yeah. But the what I think is, I guess I'm torn a little bit about what to think about the story. So on one hand, it depends on how you see the story taking place.
Yeah.
Who is like Lord Business? Who is he? Right? Is he a tyrant within this world, or is he the god of this world? And depending on where you put him, then I think determines what I think of the movie.
Yeah.
If he's a tyrant in the world, then yeah, I'm way on board with this.
So yeah, that's where I think that there is a little bit of like in terms of trying to figure out like the whole meta level of it. Like,
Yeah.
how does the outside apply to the inside?
Yes.
I think if you just take the inside for what it is, it's super solid, like very solid. And then that's the tyrant role. But as soon as you get to the outside and you get to these like, well, we're running the show, and who's the boy supposed to be, and who's this dad supposed to be,
It becomes a little philosophically messy.
yeah. And I don't think it's meant to be like. I feel like that's where I don't think they put effort into making that like a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely like. For me, I just had to go. I'm not gonna think about that. And
if you just
that's a
take
funny Will Ferrell scene.
yeah. If you just let it be what it is, then I think that the whole
Like a
thing is
separate
about
story.
a dad. Yeah. Like the thing is about a dad and his son, and his dad wants things to be tight and in order, and his son is trying to play and enjoy life.
Yeah.
And
It almost creates an
the son
application.
needs to, the son needs to figure out what it looks like to play within the rules. He can't act as if there are no rules. He needs to learn the rules before he can break them. But then you should have that point where you break them and start being creative and building and taking what you've been given and turning it a profit on it, right? Like you can't just follow the instructions the whole time and like keep everything in perfect order. You're supposed to take what you learn and build on it. And so like if you take it for that, it's great. It's a solid film. If you start trying to like dissect the meta of the whole thing,
it's not a perfect allegory
becoming
for
messy,
the way the world works here. So
yeah.
I definitely think it's just a really fun, enjoyable film.
Yep.
It hits a lot of like points that are like relevant in today. Like I love the whole Octane Corporation and how he's like, what? He's just such a great dude. He owns like all the, what did he say? He owns like the coffee companies, he owns
He owns everything.
He makes all the history
media,
books.
he owns the news channel.
Yeah, the news channels, the history books, the voting machines. And he goes, wait, what? And then it just like cuts and it just continues going.
Well, and then there's some line in there in the news when the news is actually playing that they say it's mandatory or else we'll, disappear you.
Oh no, or else you'll be put to sleep.
You'll be put to sleep. And then and he's like, what?
Wait,
We'll be
what?
put to sleep? And then suddenly there's this advertisement. And he's like, what was I thinking about?
Yeah.
He just totally, I don't know. And then he just a lot of excellent satirical social commentary that is just splendid. Yeah. But that's what Lego is all about. Lego is kind of that satirical take on the IP of whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so we'll come back someday and talk about Lego Batman and maybe Lego Movie 2 and how it stacks up.
Oh, yeah.
And all the other Lego things that are out there. But
Yeah, a worthwhile one to throw into the family DVD player.
yeah, absolutely.
Dated reference now. Whatever streaming platform you have or Blu-ray player that you have. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, it's one that you can safely add to the list
Oh yeah.
of movies that you're going to let your kids watch because it's got so much good to it, and it's just kids enjoy it. One of the things that I think is like the biggest recommendation that I've had from it, that just the practical application of it, is that my son, every time we watch Lego Movie, it drives him to Legos like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he ends up building the coolest, craziest things after watching that movie, which is just like, typically you watch a movie and it's just like brain sucking to get you back into another movie, or it feels like that. It feels like all that you want to do is then watch another movie. But with this, he went and he wanted to create a bunch of Lego stuff.
That's so cool.
It's the best.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been a recommendation from us. Go watch the Lego Movie. Enjoy it. Tell us what you think. Podcast at foxfirefilms.com. And we will be with you next time for more talk about movies and storytelling with digital media right here at Foxfire Farmhouse. Thanks, everybody.